Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard this Air France message. Your journey to France begins when you set foot on the plane, starting with a complimentary glass of champagne in every class. Now available in La Première and coming this November in Business Cabin, savor the tastes and flavors of an exclusive menu created by our new Michelin-starred French chef, Daniel Boulou, aboard our flights departing the U.S. Enjoy an exquisite taste of France before you arrive. Bon appétit! Elegance is a journey. Air France.
Now it's time for No Pucks Given with Dan Kingerski of Pittsburgh Hockey Now. Penguin Scoops locker room buzz and straight-up analysis. No fluff, all hockey. Now, here's Dan.
And we are live. Hi, I'm Dan Kingerski on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now platforms. It is our weekly live chat, Wednesday, October 29th. For those of you on the podcast side, Scott usually puts this on the Odyssey podcast network as well. So here's what we're going to talk about. I have a feeling that you're all a little bit rankled about Harrison Brunicke. We're going to talk we're going to talk through the entire situation, right? I don't think there is a right answer yet, which means there's also not a wrong answer. Well, some of the stuff I've seen is wrong. So we're going to get into all of that. And I'm going to kind of lay it out. I'm going to be as honest as just as forthright as I possibly can, presenting, how the hockey people think, what I've seen in the past, what I'm seeing, both on the inside, on the ice, and by the end of it, maybe, I've brought a little bit of clarity, at least, to the situation, whether he stays, whether he goes after the 9 games, I don't think is yet determined. We'll, of course, talk about the last handful of Penguins games in which they've been badly outshot. Badly outshot. I put that to Dan Muse in the postgame last night on Tuesday. So, we'll get through that a little bit too. We'll talk about, who's playing well, who's not, where we're going to see regressions, and what, I don't think I can predict how the Penguins will come home on this road trip. I mean, they could come home 10-2-2. They could come home 7-5-2. You just don't know yet. But we're going to get through some of that stuff. Also, I see some of the comments already. Yeah, we were 10 minutes late here this evening. STD, Standard Dan Time. No, I thought I had set my alarm for 5:45. I did set my alarm for 5:45 local time. It's going to go off because I just realized why I'm late. 5:45 local time is in 35 minutes. That's why I've had about not quite 5 hours of sleep over the last 2 days. So yeah, I was a little bit of a hurting puppy, and I got into the hotel room. You can see Minneapolis, actually the St. Paul rather, over my shoulder, and I sat down and it just felt so good. Well, I had to lay down, and that felt so good I had to grab the covers. And that all felt so good I had to roll over and kind of curl up out like a light. So I do beg your indulgence for the extra 10 minutes some of you were waiting. I appreciate the heck out of you. I really do. It, and then, of course, I come running over to the table, try to set up. And for whatever reason, it's actually not very bright out, but it looks it over my shoulder, doesn't it? It looks like it's very sunny, when in reality, the sun is setting, and it's actually dark. It's almost dark in St. Paul, yet it looks like it's, 1 o'clock in the afternoon here behind me. So let's get in to the Harrison Brunicke stuff. How do I put this? it's almost becoming cliche in this discussion. Oh, well, he has to learn, let him learn, let him make mistakes. Yes, but, right, there is a difference, a huge difference between what is an acceptable mistake and what is not. An acceptable mistake is a turnover at center ice when you're, a bad pass, you misread. That is being a rookie. An acceptable mistake is trying to do too much, pinching without calling out to the forward so they roll over and take the top of the zone. Those are rookie mistakes. And you're like, okay, those will be ironed out. In fact, the tying goal, here I've got just a little bit of video. Like this is borderline rookie mistake. Oh, I don't know what the heck that's the end of the play, because here is, in fact, this was St. Louis's second goal on Monday. I've pulled the actual goal visualizer from NHL.com. Watch 45 back at the blue line. He makes a great headman pass to Tommy Novak. We're good so far. He jumps forward then at center ice. Bad play, wrong read. I count that as a rookie mistake. But then how he finishes the play, allowing the goal, not a rookie mistake. I don't quite know how to term that mistake. Just bad hockey. That's kind of the problem. You work on bad hockey in juniors. You work on bad reads or, catching up to the game in the NHL. So watch 45 here, back at the blue line. Jumps up right there. Now he's caught. But he's still in position. Take a look at Harrison Brunicke here. He's still in position to take away this play. In fact, I'll play it again because it was quick. See, he should have been coming back. And he kind of then did, but here's how the play ended. Watch Brunicke not take any strides, just sort of glide. And Nick Bjugstad, we're not talking, Robert Thomas or Jordan Kyrou or any of the St. Louis Blues great players. We're talking Nick Bjugstad. Watch. See, he's just. I'll play that again. Just doesn't take a stride, doesn't close the lane, doesn't get in position. Coming back behind the play there. Whoops. That's the stuff that is going to get him possibly sent back to juniors. I said last weekend, in fact, that the Penguins are a better team with the rookies in the lineup. There were going to be wild swings either way, but they were still better with the rookies in the lineup. I didn't anticipate quite the level of Brunicke's mistakes. And so what Kyle Dubas and his scouts are looking at this point, what they're evaluating is, can he stay in the NHL and not be battered by the experience? Because of all of the discussion points that I've seen on social media, Reddit, X, all of the arguing, nobody has mentioned the biggest discussion point going on in the Kyle Dubas room. What happens if he stays? You can kill a young defenseman's confidence. You can absolutely shatter it, destroy it, crush it, bulldoze it, bury it, dig it up, bury it again, to great detriment to the long-term health of the player. If he's not ready and you keep him up here and those goals against keep happening, he starts wondering. It gets to be an entire thing. And this is not a new debate. This isn't new to the Penguins. This is sort of what happens. In fact, Dave Molinari, I don't think he wrote it about Harrison Brunicke. He wrote it about Sergei Murashov before Dave. Dave kind of took the summer off, started his own Substack. By the way, his book is out. Dave Molinari's book is out as well. The Penguins and I have retweeted it, and everybody has retweeted it. You can look it up quite easily and go buy it because it's good stuff. He wrote, the potential long-term effects on Murashov for coming to the NHL too quickly weren't worth the risk. I didn't see this coming. Full stop. I expected Brunicke. I mean, the first several games were fine. They had those sort of mistakes that we just watched. But those mistakes were becoming more common. And it's one thing to make a few of them. It's another thing to keep making them and make more of them. That's a downward trend that is worrisome. So as I sit here Wednesday evening with the sun shining in St. Paul before the Penguins take on the Minnesota Wild, is it, I guess on Thursday? Honest to goodness, I am day to day. I know what days to be at what rink, and that's it. It's not inconceivable that they send him back to juniors, and it's the right call. It's not inconceivable. You keep on using that word. You do not think it means what you think it means. I would probably say, in my gut right now, it's 60-40 that he goes back to the WHL. And it's for those gliding reasons. It's for the lack of correcting the mistakes thus far. It's for making more of them. 60-40? That St. Louis game was a harbinger. It was jarring. It was everything the Penguins didn't want to see. He doesn't need to be perfect. He doesn't even need to be really good. He just needs to show that he can handle it, and it's not a danger to keep him with the Penguins. He's got 2 games left. I don't know if the Penguins are going to hurry up and get those 2 games over. They could space them out. He could play, let's say, in Minnesota, take off Winnipeg, and play against Toronto, although that seems like a big test for a rookie defenseman. Maybe he gets scratched in Minnesota, plays in Winnipeg, doesn't play in Toronto, and plays when we get home. Plays his 9th game, and they get to make that decision. He could also sit the rest of the road trip, although I think being scratched for 4 straight games, 5 straight, it would be 5. That might be too much time in between games. I don't think the Penguins want to get into a situation. Remember when Daniel Sprong was a rookie? And Jim Rutherford was really high on Sprong. Mike Sullivan was not. And it had nothing to do with his age. It had everything to do with Daniel Sprong. Once he crossed the red line, he was absolutely lost I mean like a 5-year-old in the Mall of America or a 40-something in the Mall of America. I couldn't get out today. I kid you not. I walked in the same circle 5 times. Could not figure out where the public transit terminal was. You actually had to go back behind this stage, down an escalator. Like, how in the... I had no memory of getting up that way. But anyway, I found it, finally. After an hour, I was ready to cry and find the security guard like I would have done when I was 5. Daniel Sprong would get lost on the other side of the red line. Mike Sullivan was like, enough. They stretched Daniel Sprong's 9 games out to like December. Later November, early December, before they finally cut bait, sent him back to juniors. So I never thought that was a good thing. Maybe with a forward you can get away with that, but a skating defenseman, I don't think you can put him on ice for a couple of weeks before you put him on the ice. I don't think that would help. So I'm not saying to send him back. I unfortunately am walking back my proclamation that he must stay. The situation has changed. The details have changed. The scenario has changed. And so 60-40 back, 50-50. I'm somewhere in that sort of camp. I wish that weren't the case. He's a good guy. It's fun to cover him. He can do some fun things, but if his confidence gets wrecked, he won't be doing those fun things, and then you actually have to salvage him at some point, and you don't want to do that. That's not what the Penguins are about. So that's where we are with Harrison Brunicke. Let's get to some of your questions, because the Penguins were outshot against Philadelphia. I must confess, man, you guys were just vicious on my report card. You weren't even nice about it. Some of you just got on your little high horses there and rode around like you were going to war. Get over yourselves, a few of you. I mean, relax. Erik Karlsson got an A in my Tuesday report card because I had like 5 pages of notes, and everybody stunk in the second period. I know one of the YouTube commenters like, so that play where he was so terrible, he broke his stick over the crossbar, he was angry. Like, that's not actually analysis of the play. I don't believe Karlsson was the fault on any of the Flyers, either of the Flyers' goals. He also played 32 minutes. When was the last time we saw a Penguins defenseman play anything close to 32 minutes, like 31:50 or something high? Let's get to some questions before I sort of get into that. But I guess I'm throwing a little brushback pitch on some of you. Just relax. Ask me why I gave Karlsson an A. And I will show you the number of times I wrote in my a little 65 and a check mark. The number of times he sort of just very subtly spun a Flyer away from the puck. Didn't even notice it, probably. Just would take his stick or his arm and just kind of turn his shoulder. And now he wins the puck battle. The Penguins win the puck battle. And that stuff doesn't show up in the stat sheet. I thought he was fairly well engaged. I'm not going to go to the mats to defend giving him an A, because that was kind of on the curve, since no one really had a good game on Tuesday. Nobody had a great game on Tuesday. If it were, against some of his best games this season, it is a B minus effort. But compared to him being like one of the best Penguins, well, nothing I can do about that. Let's get to, let's see here. Let's go to Matt. Forget the Harrison Brunicke issue. We need to talk about the Dan Kingerski issue. An A for Erik Karlsson. Are you insane? Are you out of your mind? Apparently so.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard this Air France message. Your journey to France begins when you set foot on the plane, starting with a complimentary glass of champagne in every class. Now available in La Première and coming this November in Business Cabin, savor the tastes and flavors of an exclusive menu created by our new Michelin-starred French chef, Daniel Boulou, aboard our flights departing the U.S. Enjoy an exquisite taste of France before you arrive. Bon appétit! Elegance is a journey. Air France.
Is anyone in the organization concerned? I love that organization. That is definitely Canadian. Concerned about the attendance or lack thereof, 5,000 plus empty seats, or am I just overreacting? No, David. I have not written anything about it. Only, for these two reasons. One, it's not worth hearing everybody give me every BS excuse. Oh, well, the traffic is so bad right now. It's just, oh my gosh, the tickets are so expensive. I mean, look, they are. The Penguins in the pantheon of the NHL have fairly expensive tickets. They're not Toronto. It's not Montreal. But the Penguins are not a cheap date compared to the local economy. I understand that. But working backwards, the traffic, the ticket prices, these things aren't problems when the Penguins are Stanley Cup contenders. These things aren't problems when fans feel like they have to be there. The building is full, even though those problems exist. But even though now that the Penguins are winning games, by the way, 7-2-2 after Tuesday, 13,000 announced attendance, like 13,200, 13,006, I think was for the St. Louis Blues game. Now, those are tickets in circulation. That number is not fans in attendance. There might have been 10,000 at the St. Louis game. Good grief. There were like 15,000 and change announced for the Hall of Fame game Saturday. There again, I would have put the attendance around 12, maybe 13,000. It's kind of embarrassing. It raises every red flag that I talked about for years. And everybody smarter than me said, no. The organization told me, now listen, as long as they're buying the tickets, we don't care if they come late, leave early, or even sometimes no show. That's not a priority for us. And all of the fans got all over me. You get paid to go to games. Let's see how you like it if you didn't get paid to go to games and you had to buy tickets. And here we are. I always worried that when the Penguins weren't cup contenders, you wouldn't show up. Fans in general. Here we are. 10,000 showing up for a winning hockey club with Sidney Crosby. It tells me that most Penguins fans don't love hockey, that it's about the glory. And if they're not going to win the Stanley Cup, what's the point of showing up? That is danger zone. Warning, Will Rogers, warning. Because you're not always going to be a Stanley Cup contender. And fans are going to have to actually go and like hockey. Appreciate hockey. The Penguins fan base has always been about the player. Mario, Yager, Sidney, Evgeny, Chris. What comes next is genuinely, truly learning the game. And I talked about this back in 2017, 18, 19, when we were getting Pittsburgh Hockey Now off the ground. My job was to bring my Canadian training of the game, of the inside, of the culture to you. Over the years, I've been extremely happy at how much we were able to present and some of the ways we were able to inform and, where I get stuff parroted back to me, stuff that I've said kind of boomerangs out into the hockey universe and comes back to me as if somebody just had a new idea. Had that happen last week, in fact. I won't tell you who. One of my big name colleagues said, what would make sense? And it was the same thing I had said a week earlier. And I was like, all right, that's cool. If you don't learn hockey, if you don't, or at least learn to appreciate hockey and learn to want to know more, this is where I think the game of hockey, certainly hockey media, falls so far short. How often do people, like the Harrison Brunicke thing I just did for you, how many of us out there are doing that? Too many newspapers just take a high school reporter and say, okay, we need a hockey reporter. You're now the hockey reporter. And the guys or girls like, I know nothing about hockey, but they show up, they get in the way, they ask questions that you're just like face palm. Oh. And they tell you who scored at what time of the game. They tell you what this player said, what that player said, and that's the job, without ever providing the full color, context, background, why, how, and all of that. That is a giant failure on my industry's part to help you, that help you help me, help you help me. Well, that's hockey and media's fault on a lot of that. But it's out there if you want it. And David, you brought up a huge, touchy subject for me because I am worried. In 10 years, if the Penguins aren't Stanley Cup contenders, Sidney Crosby, long gone, will the Penguins have figured out how to draw more than flies? Scary. It really is to me. Let's go to the Driz here. Are the warts starting to show, especially with the D core? I have pondered that very question, sir. I don't know yet. I tend to think, and here's where I'm at in the evolution of your question. And I promise I won't give you a 5-minute answer like I did to David there. I still think the system, Dan Muse's system, is coming together. Muse did not bring a hokey, overly simplistic junior hockey system to the Penguins. He has brought a thinking man's system. In the defensive zone, it's a hybrid approach. I call it a catch and release. That's not the actual term they would use. Where you're man-to-man, somewhere below the, the circle, dot, wherever it might be, you're man-to-man. Above that part of the zone, then you flip to a zone. So literally, as one defenseman was telling me, like if you're leaning into a guy and he skates out of that man-to-man quadrant, you release him. You call it out, you release him, you recoil to, sort of, you get the next guy, or you take a position where you think that, somebody will come through to support the forwards. It really is a very fluid read and react and read scheme in the defensive zone. Then you go to the neutral zone system, which was a 1-1-3 that was really aggressive. It's not a trap. Oh, there's my alarm. It's now 5:45 local time. In the neutral zone, it's not a 1-1-3 trap. It's a 1-1-3 attack, which really empowers the defenseman. That can be, I still think that is being programmed into a lot of the guys. And then in the offensive zone, they like to do the giveaways, or the handoffs. That's where I'm looking for, the handoffs high in the zone to create speed going back down low. There's a lot of players who have to think for a moment, who have to read, react, and it's still coming together after 11 games. If it's still a little bit chaotic in 20 games, then there's a problem. I think we're still in the green zone. Plus, look, they have 7 wins, points in 9 of 11 this season. You're going to go through these spells. It's going to happen again where, 3 of 4 games you get outshot badly. The Penguins, and Dan Muse referenced this last night when I put the question to him. The Penguins are not getting badly outchanced, which means the other team is letting rip from outside the scoring zones. I do think there's a little bit of a gap in Muse's system that puts a little bit of pressure on goaltenders. I'm trying to think back last Thursday. Was it Columbus? Who did they play last Thursday? Yeah. Florida, then Columbus. Florida Tuesday, Columbus Thursday. And I thought both of those teams exploited the gap in Muse's system in which you can sort of have some space at the top of the circle to shoot. That's not a high danger scoring chance, but Artie Shelofs struggles with it. He struggles with those longer shots. And if you're getting good traffic at the net, now those do become a little bit dangerous. So that's, I think, what we're seeing. The Penguins will adjust, and we'll go back and forth here. I hope I answered your question, Driz. Are we seeing warts? No, I think we're still seeing growing pains. Let's go to Michael. Dan, how are you doing? It sucks that we lost last night, but I got Blake Lazot's game-used stick. Hey, nice job, Michael. Lazot gets so little credit in the Penguins fan base. He gets no credit, actually. Also, Sid's parents were 2 rows in front of me. Troy was not happy when Sid got ejected. They were down in the locker room area, and yeah, the 3 of them were sort of talking. You can be 38 years old and have to answer to dad sometimes. No, it wasn't that kind of conversation. The Crosbys have been around quite a bit. I leave them alone. I don't talk to them. I let them be parents. I let them just enjoy this part of Sid's career. I don't need to go prying into that. I think they enjoy seeing the milestones that he's racking up at this point. I will tell you, and here's a Dan story, Michael and everybody. This is, several years ago, back when we used to have to wear masks in public and we were locked in our houses and all of that. I was talking to Scotty Bowman every couple or a few weeks. I was on the rotation, and it was just the coolest thing to me. And I've met and talked with Kevin Stevens. We have mutual friends, but there I was covering the Hall of Fame ceremony, and completely intimidated to talk to both of them. Didn't say hi to Scotty, and I've left Scotty alone since the pandemic. Who am I, right? Same, Kevin Stevens being part of the organization. I can't be really like, hey, what's up? That's kind of frowned upon. This is just kind of how awkward, and maybe sometimes I'm just happy to let people be and assume that they have no idea who I am and no desire to talk to me. So there I was watching Scotty get inducted and Artie, and didn't say a word to either of them when I was standing 5 feet from them. That's just how wonderfully awkward I can I can be.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard this Air France message. Your journey to France begins when you set foot on the plane, starting with a complimentary glass of champagne in every class. Now available in La Première and coming this November in Business Cabin, savor the tastes and flavors of an exclusive menu created by our new Michelin-starred French chef, Daniel Boulou, aboard our flights departing the U.S. Enjoy an exquisite taste of France before you arrive. Bon appétit! Elegance is a journey. Air France.